excited to bring on Stephen Cope, who's actually the chief innovation officer at Astrak. He leads the company's digital transformation efforts. Astrak is a global leader in construction equipment parts. So they started more than 20 years ago, construction equipment, undercarriage, and wear parts business. Their goal is to help get customers the fastest delivery time across UK, Europe, North America. They have over 200 employees, and I am very pleased to welcome Stephen Cope.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thanks for being on. And so, look, B2B commerce seems like an increasingly hot topic, and especially in a case where you have a category or set of categories in different types of parts where it's not straightforward. You know, the individual part is simple, but how it's used is difficult. And so why don't you, maybe I shouldn't get ahead of myself. Tell me a little bit about how you joined the business, maybe your career and your scope and remit at Astrak.
Yeah, sure. I started with Astrak just over 6 years ago now. Previous to that, I had 15 years in the energy sector, doing anything from IT to data to working with the trade desk, buying the power and gas. Then I pivoted my career when the opportunity at Astrak came up. So I've been with Astrak for 6 years now. I started out as a business analyst, and now I lead the IT and digital transformation strategy. Just ensuring our technology enables us to grow, operates efficiently, and enhances our customer experience. A bit about Astrak. As you said, we sell parts into construction and civil engineering sectors. Our customer and our whole ethos is about getting the right parts to our customers at the fastest possible speed. And that's been the cornerstone of our business, really. And with every decision we make, we always hold that at number one priority.
Got it. And are you guys a marketplace? Are you owning the inventory, or how do you work with your suppliers?
Yeah, so we actually own the inventory. We have multiple stocking locations across the world now, so we're a global player. We have really good supply chain, really good suppliers, and we're very focused on making sure we've got the stock, making sure we've got the right part in the right location.
Got it. And it seems like private equity got involved in the business as the business grew, and you guys sort of like hyper charged your growth, and so that must be a lot of new challenges and opportunities for you to tackle as an innovation leader.
Especially challenges. Over the last 3 years, working in IT, we've completed a number of mergers and acquisitions now. So it feels like there's an integration project every 90 days at the moment, which brings its own challenges. But it's really enabled us and gave us the confidence to go into the North American market. We've just most recently acquired a company in New Zealand as well.
Oh, wow.
It's allowing us to optimize how we manage, how we procure, how we fulfill, and our customer engagement.
Yeah, you talked about being able to scale, and one thing that really impressed me is you survived a ERP, had the fortitude to see that through, and it sounds like you have all of these systems that you've also integrated and set up. So you've been through quite a big technology transformation. Can you talk about that and how that's helped you set up to really bring in these companies that you acquire and maximize their potential very quickly?
Before you answer, I love, like, when you're acquiring a bunch of companies, usually I walk into these places and they have like 30 ERP systems. And in our pre-call, you said you had one, which is like blowing my mind right now. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we've got a cloud ERP platform, NetSuite, which yeah, I'm sure some of the listeners will
Yeah.
know what it's like. It's really enabled us to scale. It's very flexible. Every acquisition we do a process alignment piece, and we migrate a lot of data into NetSuite. So we're almost doing an implementation of NetSuite for every business we
Mm.
acquire. And it's key for us because we want to keep the one source of truth. We want to keep the data all in the one place. And that enables us to use our other platforms, which are fully integrated as well, and use our network providers. So in terms of like 3PLs and carriers across the world.
Hmm.
And that's really the power of this strategy. It may be a bit more of a slower strategy because every time
Right.
we buy a company, we're integrating.
It seems like the
Um,
data would be the hardest part of that integration at this point.
it
Yeah.
certainly is, yes. Our parts are quite technical, so yeah, there's a wide range of parts for machinery, and we have to do that big data exercise up front and make sure we match the items, match compatibility. So it can be quite difficult at times, but yeah, we've managed to do it.
So walk us back forward through the architecture. ERP is your source of truth. It's also your CRM. The customer is on the other end. What's in the middle here?
Yeah, sure. So a couple of years ago, we wanted to get into e-commerce in a big way. So we went down the tender path and had a look at some of what was on offer in the market.
Yeah.
Um, the, the main thing for us was a lot of the monolithic companies. They had a certain way of working and a box you
Mm.
had to work within. And with how unique our business is and how unique our products are, it wasn't a good fit. So we decided to go down the headless
Can you
and
unpack that
composable route.
uniqueness for a second? Because I think it's important to understand like the level of complexity that you're dealing with. It seems like it's not obvious, I think, to the average person who sells apparel or something else. Like you have a part, why can't you just sell that part? Like where does the complexity come in?
Yeah, the complexity is that one part can fit 50 or maybe 100 different machine make models.
Mm.
Mm.
And that's really our IP data. We've grown that over the last 20, 25 years now. And it's about building that customer journey as well. So a customer will know what they want, so they'll know the type of part they want, and they'll know the machine and model they have. And it's about back working from that journey back to
Hmm.
how we manage our item data in-house. So that's been the biggest journey for us on the data side.
Yeah, and there's no database you're pulling from. You mentioned you're building all that yourself. Like something else that caught my attention was though it sounds like you can go to market pretty quickly once you've acquired a company and you bring them in. And so what has helped you develop that formula to kind of stand these up quickly and push out?
I think it's all to do with scalable and flexible solutions. And especially on the e-commerce side, we have that now. It was a lot of effort up front, but yeah, that speed of entry in a different market or different territory, the architecture we've built, which is fully integrated into our ERP system, has helped us with that.
Got it. And so from a e-commerce platform, it's the glue between that customer experience you wanted to create as what and that ERP system in your CRM. I'm assuming, because there's a lot of customer data that might affect the journey too.
Yeah, the key thing was trying to keep it all in the same place.
Hmm.
I think historically, where we've tried to do this, we created data silos
Hmm.
and processes that weren't integrated. But as you scale, it's just impossible to maintain and manage that. And that was in the forefront of our minds when we built out this structure.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, in our interview, kind of leading up to this thing, you talk about, and I think Jess, you're going here too, just like idea of future proofing
Mm-hmm.
your architecture, especially in the sense that you are going to keep acquiring companies. Your business is not getting simpler, and you want to keep your team. Like you told me before the call, like how few people are on your team, which kind of blew my mind again with how complex the product set is. Um, what does future proof mean to you? Like as an operator and someone who's trying to maintain all these things that people are throwing at you.
I think key for us is to have that architecture in place, that structure in place, that can grow with us. Now the structure's in place, we do maybe tinker around the edges, but ultimately it's all front end now work because the back end's all done. And it just means even if we acquire a company and they have a different shop front or different front ends, we can plug that straight into the back end and use the power of our ERP and the scalable of our ERP to enter new markets.
Got it. And you mentioned NetSuite. What are some of the other vendors you have in place? And then talk to me about the front end, like how are you building that?
Yeah, sure. So we went down the route of selecting Elastic Path as our composable e-commerce solution. And Elastic Path's great in the sense that it can grow with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's built API first as well, which is really key for us. So we're using the connectivity of NetSuite, and we're using the capabilities of Elastic Path to connect and tie everything into the one structure. And yeah, without that structure, it wouldn't enable us to be able to go into different markets and be able to spin up websites, relatively quickly.
Yeah. Didn't you say something like 2 weeks, or it's 2 weeks that you can kind of move pretty fast as you're entering into some of these markets?
That's always been the vision, is to get that down to 2 weeks. Yeah, we've maybe not quite got there yet, but yeah, the technology has enabled us to be able to move as fast as we want.
Wow.
Yeah, and the data again, you kind of mentioned the data side, which is really, I think, where a lot of that complexity is. It doesn't sound like the middle and the front ends have to change very much once you're doing that. And how did you build your front end?
Yeah, the front end is built statically. So there's not actually product pages that you can hit the site on. It's built statically as the user's going through the site. And we felt this would be the best way to offer the best performance and the best speeds, especially with today's e-commerce landscape. People need quick websites.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing worse. There's no worse turn off than a website that's really slow. You'll end
Yeah.
up going to a competitor. So
Yeah.
you have to have that, quick and unique
Yeah.
experience. But we actually built on three different pillars. It was stability, the speed, and security. So every decision we made during the build was around those three pillars.
Wow. And it sounds like you had full buy-in, like from your CFO, the CEO. Sometimes with these projects, Rick said before, most people want to re-platform. They'd rather gnaw their arm off before they re-platform. You guys had a lot of patience, and kind of tell us about those dynamics as you kind of worked with the leadership team together to see these things through and keep investing. Because I'm sure it's also there's lots of different places you can invest your dollars.
Yeah, you're right. And especially coming up with a technology solution like we have using
Mm-hmm.
composable and headless
Mm-hmm.
technology, it's quite a hard sell initially
Yeah.
to get your head around that. So especially from a non-technical perspective.
Right.
But I think everything we do is customer centric and around the customer. So
Mm.
the quicker we can build these platforms out and get into the market to serve our customers
Mm-hmm.
better.
Yeah. So
Um,
what you're
sorry.
saying here, I think a lot of people really struggle with if they're in this headless composable world. If they're in simple products, they're all, it doesn't make sense a lot of times, but for a complex user experience, even just having this conversation, how are you, because you're talking to people who have no idea about technology, and they almost kind of don't want to hear about it. They just want to hear what the customer is going to do
Yeah.
and how much money they're going to make and how quickly they're going to make that much money. And so how do you bridge the gap in that boardroom, that CFO conversation in a way that like is relevant? Like, do you build a prototype of like, if we take direction A, this is what it's going to look like based on what's in the market, and this is the direction that we want to take. This is the difference in our, like, walk us through that.
I think we probably started with the vision, if I'm honest, and the end goal of how flexible and how scalable do we want this to be. Then we've kind of just worked back from that, and picking the right technology and the right architecture and infrastructure certainly helps. And we're a close-knit bunch on the senior management team, and that really helps. So your voice is heard, and yeah, it's respected, and I'm the technical lead in the business, so it's really good that the business has that confidence in me to be able to produce such a good technology stack.
Yeah. I mean, it's really impressive. And first of all, I just have to say, how many times you've mentioned customer in this conversation, you don't hear that a lot, especially when you're talking about technology, Rick, to your point.
100%.
It just is like so impressive. Something else you've said is like, you know, we can make changes and get site experiences live in minutes and days instead of weeks and months. I'm sure that was also part of your vision as it tied into what it does for that customer experience. Like, how quickly were you, as you went through this journey, able to realize that vision? And like, did you have this, oh my gosh moment, you know, the minute that you were able to kind of see that change and pivot? And also, were you getting the slow claps like from the guys in the back, your CFO, saying like, thank you for doing this?
To be fair, we've had a few false starts, and going into the different territories and different geographies, consumers act differently and the demographics difference. And we found out, especially going into the US and North American markets, consumers, especially for the parts that we offer and the products we offer, shop slightly differently. And yeah, we maybe underestimated that from our European model going into the US. But we were really quick to pivot and understand our market demographic, and yeah, be able to make those changes really quickly. It has enabled us to do that.
No, I mean, I think it's great. And we talk about the customer journey. The customer also wants to pay you quickly, and the business wants to be able to recognize that revenue quickly. Talk about the payment flows, like quote to cash type of things. What options do you offer customers? How does that break down from a use point of view?
Yeah, we did a bit of research up front about what payment gateways to use, what payment options in the different territories, because it is different globally. There's different payment gateways that's adopted in different countries. You guys are talking about Klarna earlier on as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very much the same. And I think with the whole e-commerce piece, it's about getting that user journey right to be able to almost come up with a one-click pay. I think Amazon changed the game there with their marketplace. And the rest of the world has been trying to catch up with that. And I think that's the right route to go down. Well, for us, it's about making sure that the customer is confident that they're selecting the right parts and they're going to get it in the time frame they expect.
No, I think that is, I mean, obviously it's definitely needed, and I think having the flexibility to put the customer in payment methods that make sense for their locale is critical if you're going to grow in that region. Otherwise, you're going to have a solution that's sort of very, has a North American mindset or a UK-centric mindset, and it doesn't really resonate with the buyer in that market.
Yeah.
I think that's where some of our partners come into play as well, that they can give us this information and tell us what payment solutions work best in the different geographics.
Something that surprised me too is you actually accept returns, which most people in this industry don't.
They
Can
must be
you,
very heavy.
yeah. Can you tell us about that? Because it's very forward thinking. I think, like I mentioned, I was at eBay and I wasn't in this category, but like seeing stuff move in the business and industrial space, there was like a no returns pretty much standard across the board. So you kind of blow my mind here.
Yeah, we pride ourselves on that. Again, it comes back to being customer focused.
Mm-hmm.
We, we we like to take that pain on behalf of the customer. So you're right, our parts are big, heavy, dirty
Right.
parts. And yeah, it's just easier if we take that pain from the customer. And I think we get a better customer lifetime value by doing
Mm-hmm.
that. It is a unique approach, but it works really well for our company.
Yeah. So there you have, how many times do you have a lot of buyer's remorse is the situation versus like it just doesn't work?
Yeah.
To be fair, our industry is all about distress purchase.
Yeah.
Customers will have a machine that will cost them thousands of pounds a day if it's down. So again, just making that customer journey, making sure we're
Super
getting the
simple.
right parts at the right time is
Mm,
critical for us.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this, in these specialty categories like construction, equipment parts, um, you because you're so forward thinking, you're like you guys are like pioneers. And so people say like the pioneers are always the one that gets the arrow in their backs, or they have to cut through the brush or like whatever it is. There had to be some missteps, mistakes, blind alleys you went by as you sort of put together this solution. What were kind of the, I don't know, one or two biggest sort of like holy crap moments for you that like we need to rethink, or this blew up in our faces, so we need to do something else?
Yeah, I think the biggest moment for us was the European demographic versus the US
Mm,
demographic. The US are very much used to going into hardware stores with a part number or a serial number
Yeah.
and be able to find their parts that way. Whereas our journey for our customers in Europe is completely different to that. We probably didn't recognize that quick enough when we went into the US market. But again, because of the technology, it's enabled us to make those changes relatively quickly.
Mm-hmm. And then looking to the future, what's exciting for you? What do you guys have on the horizon? What other big swings are you going to make? Because it feels like you aren't afraid to take them, which is also not
that's right.
common, So what's the next big swing?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we've just acquired a company in New Zealand,
Mm,
and we're looking to build out our operating model in
Mm-hmm.
that side of the world now. And I'm sure that there will be a lot more acquisitions as well over the next couple of years that will keep us busy.
Yeah. Well, it's extremely impressive. I've personally learned a ton, and exciting to see your growth. And congratulations! Like I said, you guys have been so forward thinking, and also had a lot of fortitude and patience as you've gone through all of these different big, heavy transformations, including the inventory that you guys carry. So don't go far because we have our dance party, and you can show us like what are the
some
overseas
kind of, yeah,
moves
your
that are
desk
hot. Yeah.
dancing moves.
Yeah, your best dancing moves. So you get a little bit of time to practice. But we're going to bring on our friend Nick Kaplan for Kaplan's Corner.
Thank you, Stephen. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you
Thanks,
coming on.
guys.